He joins us in studio today. In a bit, we expect his vice president as well. Mr. President.
Welcome.
Good
to be here.
Thank you. Glad to have you here. I don't
you.
know what time you slept last night or how many hours of sleep you've had as you've been monitoring what's been going on. Thank you.
Just about 6 hours.
That's good.
Yes.
That's enough. I don't feel too guilty. Congratulations on your victory. What do you think gave you the extra edge over Mr. Wamu?
Well, to be honest, the last time I ran for the presidency and I lost, I considered, when I looked at the figures, were against me. And I made this conscientious decision that I will start running and preparing for the next elections soon thereafter. So it was a preparation of about 2 years in coming. And I'm glad that I had a lot of support from my team, and I thank them very much. Without the wonderful campaign team I had, I wouldn't have done what I achieved in this time. And also the most important thing is actually being relevant to the society, contributing to society, and traveling across the country. To be honest, I covered about 10,000 kilometers in total.
Okay.
In the last 2.5 months. It's been a very grueling campaign.
And many have asked, and it's important that you've raised that, many have asked, if this is a voluntary position, why were so many candidates seen very willing to go the extra mile in terms of finances, in terms of their time, and yet ordinary Kenyans might not understand why this position is quote-unquote so lucrative, and yet it's voluntary?
You're right. About that. I think it's more of, for some of us, driven by the fact of, on my part, it's service to the society. For some of my colleagues, generally that's the bottom line. You want to serve the society, but the way that elections have been held in the last 10, 15 years, it requires you to go out and meet your constituents. So it's unavoidable.
You have no choice but to get into that.
Yes, you have no choice. But there are draft regulations in place which will require future elections to be conducted in a manner that the branches will set up activities for the candidates to be interviewed, and that will substantially reduce the time and expense to the candidates. And one of the first things I intend to do is for us members to deliberate and pass those regulations in the course of this year. Okay.
I was actually going to ask you about 2 or 3 of your campaign pledges. What should the legal fraternity, what should ordinary Kenyans expect from a president such as you?
Excellent. I have 5 pledges. The very first 2 are on practice and welfare. The biggest problem we've had is that the Law Society should actually consider itself as a trade union to safeguard the rights of its members. Practice has, in some instances, gone to the dogs in various aspects, whether it's in the conveyancing commercial sector, whether it's in the litigation. And the first things we intend to do would be to have a meeting with the stakeholders. We intend to call a meeting between my council and the Chief Justice and the new AG and the DPP to address the bottlenecks that face access to justice to the ordinary citizens of Kenya. Because it's really sad that in this day and age, we have cases pending for about 2 to 5 years. Yet in other jurisdictions, like in Morocco, you have a case determined within 6 months. Why can't we get there? What are the solutions? So the very first thing is to meet the stakeholders, have a common plan, and agree on the way forward.
With your 21 years of experience, sorry to interrupt you on the same, why do you think cases take this long in this country? I'm sure you have your own views on the same.
Yes. One, it's the fact that, in my honest view, we need more judicial officers.
Okay.
We have a population as of 2017, the rough estimate is that we have 47 million Kenyans. Yet, for example, take the employment court. We only have 12 judges serving all those Kenyans.
And hundreds of thousands of disputes.
And exactly. And one of the things that we need to do is devolve justice. I can't talk too much about devolved justice in terms of the employment court and the land court, because we have a matter pending in the Supreme Court, the famous Malin Losad case that had determined that magistrates should not handle matters in the lower court. I took that brief pro bono, went to the Court of Appeal, and we won. But the matter is now in the Supreme Court, and we will wait for the Supreme Court to provide guidance. But the bottom line is this. We need more judicial officers. We need to cooperate with the judiciary in terms of training, because also some of the judicial officers need a lot of training to expedite the manner which cases are handled. That's a big problem we have at the moment. And I'm very confident that with the new system and measures we're going to place in due course, that may be a thing of the past.
Okay, I can give you a minute to summarize your other pledges.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, is the issue of welfare members. We have this divide between the young lawyers and the old lawyers that really has come about because of lack of interaction, lack of conversation. And the very first thing that I intend to do is to ensure that we have a mentorship program. We need to bring back respect to the society. We need to bring back cooperation and understanding of the common problems we face. We also need to ensure that we have systems that will facilitate the smooth operations of a law firm. In the West, we have practice manuals. And one of the pledges is have a practice manual that will assist all lawyers, whether young or old, to run your office efficiently. And this is one of the things that I intend to introduce within the next few months.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to that.
I want to read you some headlines in the run-up to yesterday's election, just to get your thoughts on this. Daily Nation 5 days ago wrote, "New political war unfolds, days to LSK polls." The Star, in one of the articles, stated a number of lawyers told the Star that candidates engaged in lavish campaigns, ethnicity was deeply entrenched, politicians want their people at the helm of the LSK because it influences the appointment of magistrates and judges, including the Chief Justice. Is any of this true?
You know, we live in Kenya, which is so tribal, and that's a sad thing. These elections, even if you look at the statistics, sadly, in some areas went tribal. And it's one thing that we need to cure. The LSK is a professional body. And I would really want to focus on bringing the different colleagues to the table. And we agree on one thing. We are professionals. We're here to assist the government and judiciary. Forget about tribe, forget about party affiliation. The general rallying call, and one of the things that led to my success, was that I made it very clear. We need to focus and ensure that LSK is going to be apolitical, number one. And number two, we need to ensure that our practice improves and our welfare. We need to ensure that the socioeconomic rights of our citizens of Kenya are looked into. And that is where we're going to come in. When we focus on the core that is mandated by Section 4 of the LSA Act that encompasses all those particulars, then I'm sure we'll rise from the ashes.
But if some of the members in your council were forced to use these means to get to the top, if they were forced to hobnob with politicians, if they were forced to use ethnicity as a way to get into the council, I think 16 positions up for grabs,
yes.
How are you going to work with such people? You say you did not use such manners to get yourself there, but you're
yes.
going to be working with people who may have. How are you going to operate? Or are we going to have a situation like in the previous LSK council where you could see squabbles?
Well, I think with the previous LSK council, the squabbles, of course, came about because we had two distinct camps when they fought before the elections. And that dichotomy existed throughout. We have an electoral code of, we have actually a code of conduct amongst council members that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
And that code of conduct requires unity of purpose, and the disputes will be discussed and deliberated in private. And the LSK president shall be the official spokesman without anyone else countermanding what he says. And being the official spokesman, one of the things that I will make sure is that I will consult. I shall consult my council members. I shall consult even senior colleagues and in the profession to ensure that whatever we speak represents the true goal. Now, I don't expect any disunity, and I'm very proud of the team that has been elected. We have campaigned in a very decent manner out there, and we're all excited about the aspect of coming together and solving those issues. So I do not expect, and I can guarantee you, I don't expect any disputes that will arise.
Okay.
We all focused on.
And it's interesting that you said that you'll be the official spokesperson, meaning the vice president will not be contradicting you
yes.
in certain forums. And she'll be joining us shortly. That's Harriet Chigai. She'll be joining us in just a bit, even just to talk a little bit about the way forward for the Law Society of Kenya. I want to ask you, the judiciary, what are your thoughts on this body that has in 2017, 2018 seemingly looked on the back foot?
Yes.
With court orders being disregarded by court officials. Your predecessor, Isaac Okero, launched the Yellow Ribbon campaign, and the slogan was against impunity and willful disobedience of court orders, and had even threatened to boycott court sessions. Do you plan to carry on with this campaign, Mr. President?
One, I don't agree on the issue of boycotting court sessions, because first of all, it's self-defeatist. The very court that issues the orders is the very court that needs to be protected. And by boycotting that, what message are we sending out? Hi, Harriet. I definitely am of the very strong view that when it comes to court orders, all those court orders have to be obeyed by everyone, whether in government, whether in opposition, without fear or favor. And that is the stand that the Law Society shall take. If any court issues that court order, respect it. If anyone disobeys it, let contempt proceedings be instituted.
Okay.
And that's the position. That's the legal position.
Well, I'm glad that your Vice President is here, and we also want to get her thoughts on the same. Harriet Chigai, welcome to the program.
Thank you
And
very
congratulations. He tried to shake your hand while you were, walking in. I can give him a chance now to do so. I don't know if you've met since.
Congratulations, Vice President.
Congratulations, President.
All right, and of course, congratulations to you. I can give you a minute to briefly talk about what do you think gave you the edge in yesterday's election, and then weigh in on what you have found us talking about, the judiciary, and how this LSK Council plans to engage the judiciary and to deal with the matter of bodies that disobey court orders. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. First, I wish to thank the members for the tremendous support that I received. What gave me the edge, I want to believe, is I'm passion-driven. And I want to believe that is what members saw in me. And quite a bit of my cast, it was highly supported by a majority of members, cutting across the young lawyers and the senior advocates as well. And I think that is the edge that I got. I got support cutting across board.
Okay.
Yes.
The Yellow Ribbon campaign coming at the same time as both of you are out there trying to get votes, trying to appeal to lawyers, whether in Nairobi or up-country. Is that a campaign that you think should be continued? Do you think the communication has been done? We'd also heard about a move to possibly boycott court proceedings. I want to get your thoughts on those as someone who will now be of greater influence amongst lawyers.
Well, thank you about that. The issue of the Yellow Ribbon campaign, we all know what it is. It's basically the issue of disobedience of court orders. And you know, if that culture is entrenched now within the society, it will trickle down to everyone. And that is something that we should shun. We should shun with the highest possible. We should condemn that. We should not at any given point disobey court orders.
I get the feeling that you're giving us wishes, a very safe statement, but is that something you feel as a council you need to sit down once you've been officially announced as winners, etc., and actually plan how we're going to engage moving forward? What do you feel? Or do you feel what has happened over the last couple of maybe week or two was enough, was sufficient? No.
This is something that the council must sit down. And we need to engage across board, including the judiciary at large. So it's something, it's not going to end now. It's something that we should keep engaging and until we get the solution to the issues that we are currently
Mr. President, how are you going to bring justice closer to Kenyans? A lot of Kenyans, number one, still fear the courts. The backlog of cases is another issue, and a lot of surveys have shown that even after two Chief Justice, of course the current one and the previous one, had both pledged to clear up the courts, ensure that there's no backlog, studies and surveys still show that the courts, and you said it quite frankly, 2 to 5 years for a case to proceed through the courts, while in other countries we're looking at 6 months. Let's talk about what you want to do to tackle that.
Yeah. One of the first things I even pledged was, I remember last year I was honored to be invited by the judges at the annual colloquium in Mombasa. And I gave them a 24-page memorandum of changes that need to be effected. And I intend to go through that memorandum with my council and take it up with the Chief Justice. The issue of backlog, the issue of inefficiencies in court are things that we can have common solutions. And I'm glad that over the years I've been part and parcel of a team of different lawyers who have come up with practice directions to streamline the court. For example, the Court of Appeal practice directions, the Environment Land Law practice directions, the Commercial and Tax Division practice directions. I participate with a team of lawyers who dedicate time to improve that. And one of the things I suggested was this: we need to have a standard practice direction across all courts. What will that help? It will ensure that there will be systematic and regular meetings between the bar and the bench addressing common problems. And when we have those meetings, we also want to incorporate trainings. And my vision is to ensure that we have trainings between the bar and the bench to address the common bottlenecks we face. If we have that in place, I'm very confident that justice will come closer to the people. There's also another act that has been enacted. It's called the Small Claims Court, which will allow the citizen on claims up to 300,000 shillings to go directly to the court and have their cases determined within, believe you me, 3 to 6 months. And that shall happen. There is a bit of opposition there because part of the lawyers are concerned that legal representation is not included. And we need to look at that aspect because the spirit of the Act and small claims courts worldwide are really intended to assist the common wananchi. That will actually assist a lot. The other aspect, as I said, we need to look at is if the government can assist and improve the budget to the judiciary. We need more judges. We need more.
We have had a bit about this over the last couple of months.
Because like now, for example, take the Court of Appeal. Quite a number of judges have retired. We only have 20. Take, for example, the Employment Court. from 12, we need to increase by, say, about 10. We need also to increase more magistrates to handle those cases. But also another very important thing that is of a concern to the Law Society is some of the judicial officers who have been appointed, a few of them need further training. And because of the lack of training, they lead to a backlog of cases, such that, for example, you end up constantly appealing to the higher court from decisions rising there. And those are the things that we need to address so that the citizens can have the confidence of coming back to the judiciary.
Okay. You want to add in? Go ahead.
Just to add on that, those are very good ideas, number one, and then we need to also embrace technology. You know, if we can embrace technology so that we can synchronize the court processes with our firms, then I can assure you we will not have a lot of problems you're having in the courts.
Okay.
On top of that, we also need to tap into the new areas of law and practice, that is mediation and arbitration. If we all embrace mediation and arbitration, you'll realize that we'll cut off a lot of cases they don't need actually to go through the court process.
And we've actually seen the Chief Justice talking a little bit about mediation
Yes.
and saying that that is something that needs to be increased in this country. A lot of cases don't need to get to the courts, especially I think family matters, etc. Maybe mediation would be a better platform or avenue.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about the younger lawyers? Some of them still feel disenfranchised. They would like to see possibly reforms. Okay, so the court may have dismissed that petition by Nelson Harvey, but nevertheless, looking at the long term, and both of you have gone through this electoral process, do you feel that some of the qualifications need to be changed? Might that help? Or do you feel that things are okay as they are?
No, things are not okay as they are. One of the pledges, you know, I'm a performer. I identify a problem and I find a solution. Just taking you back to the issue of court-mandated mediation, I'll tell you one secret. We passed that in 2005 as the head of the committee that drafted the court-mandated mediation rules. They only came to fruition over 10 years later. Can you imagine? Now, coming back to the LSK Act, we have concerns not just from young lawyers. We have concerns from our colleagues who are state counsels, colleagues who are working in in-house counsels. They feel that they're not well represented in the society. And one of the recommendations that I personally want to make to our members is that when we amend the LSK Act, and we need to amend it this year, we need also to consider reconstituting the composition of the council to provide a special seat for young lawyers, to provide a special seat.
She seems to agree with you on those points. Go ahead.
You see, the synergy is really working.
Okay.
Yeah. To have a special seat for in-house counsel and state counsels to come on board, and also consider specialities in other fields so that we have a full embracing council that addresses all issues. I have also said that my council will ensure that we work together with the branches and have regular meetings with the branches that will address practice and welfare across the board. Now, this has never happened before. And with this new concept in mind, I don't think that the members will have a complaint that we're not working for them. Okay. We will become relevant to the society and people will be proud of the law society once again.
Okay. I can allow you to comment on that if you want to, but I also want to find out from you that the LSK had previously stated they would like to challenge some of the costs that we have had petitioners have to pay during court petitions. What are your thoughts on that? Was that something that you'd like to take? Because when you hear of petitioners being asked to pay 3 million, 6 million, or even larger figures than that, it would scare many from moving to court in 2022 or if there are by-elections.
Let me first comment on, just to add on what the President has said.
Go ahead.
It's important that we have the face of the bar together. And one of our launching pads, and I'm so happy that the President has brought it out, is that we need to embrace all members of LSK. And that is a big cry. And with that, I'm sure that will be one of the deliverables that we must during our tenure, which is very good, and we are very in sync. So I'm very happy for that. And in terms of the petitions that are currently going on, the election petitions, I think we need to revisit and rethink, because you find out that most of these petitioners, they have lost already in terms of the amount of money they have already spent during the election period. And even when you take these matters to court, the big question is, are they able to pay? So these are things that have to be revisited. We must rethink through before we actually launch and complete our tenure in office. So that is part of the election reforms that we must actually come up with.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know both of you are waiting for the IEBC and, of course, the Secretariat of the LSK to call you, and then I guess there'll be some sort of ceremony. But nevertheless, I want to get your thoughts on the message you'd send to politicians. who might be watching this program and thinking, okay, so these are the people that we need to start talking to. We need to have them in our corner, whether it's from the government, whether it's from the opposition as well. What is your message to them? You've told us what your message is to the legal fraternity and to Kenyans, but what about this special breed of Kenyans that are called politicians? Let me start with you.
Well, to the politicians, we will seek your support. The vision I have is that the LSK will become relevant in legislative reform. We want to engage our colleagues who are in parliament, especially lawyers there, and bring and push our reform agenda. There's so many laws that need to be amended. For instance, on my own motion, I petitioned Parliament under the Petition to Parliament, where every citizen can petition Parliament to come up with any law or amend any law. I petitioned Parliament to come up with a fraud act. Why? Because there's a lot of fraud going on, especially through directors hiding behind the shield of companies. And that is pending before the committee right now, and I'm happy that it's been considered. The other day, I also petitioned Parliament to come up with Induplum. Now, Induplum is very simple. In the banking sector, you cannot charge double the principal amount. Now, I did my own research and discovered that in South Africa, Induplum applies to all commercial transactions. So I thought, after seeing a family friend suffer at the hands of a Shylock, who lost his property to a Shylock, why can't we amend the Consumer Protection Act to ensure that Induplum applies to all citizens? And any money lender transaction, you will not recover more than twice the principal. That is present now before Parliament, and I pray that it's actually considered. Now, that's just an example of how we want to engage the politicians. We want to engage politicians positively, and we need the support to ensure that citizens of Kenya get the socio-economic rights right. For example, one area I'm really keen on is the duplex charges. Now, duplex charge is when you're accused in a criminal court and the penalty does not meet the constitutional threshold. Speed, remember the speeding case? I took that pro bono. And let me tell the joke. From 1975 to 2016, when I won the case, the maximum fine for speed was 500 bob. 500 shillings. It was there in black and white. When I went to court and they said, these fines of 20, 10,000, whatever, unconstitutional, the judge agreed with me. And that is not just one instance. There's so many instances. I've raised complaints in the past with the previous DPP. And we need a lot of training, especially the state councils. Because ordinary citizens, go to City Hall, for example. Believe you me, I'll give you another example. And this made my blood boil. When I go there and see an ordinary citizen, a shopkeeper who's caught with found with an expired packet of unga, charged with 50,000 shillings. Do you know what the maximum fine is? 1,000 shillings. Yet, in fact, the other thing that the law is not followed is, under the Food, Drugs and Chemical Substances Act, if you're caught with an expired product, you go, once you receive the notice, tell the public health officer, I concede, please destroy it. Once it's destroyed, there's no offense. But then they don't follow that. So those are the myriad of problems that we want as a society to address, and we shall address.
Work with lawmakers.
Absolutely.
You've chosen a very diplomatic way to answer my question, nevertheless. For those who would want to manipulate the council, causing infighting. We saw cases where the president would make a statement, the vice president would come and make another statement. I don't know, I hope we're not, he said we're not going to see that now,
yes.
and I believe you agree with him. What are you going to do about that, just to strengthen the council so that it speaks as an independent voice that does not seem, there's no perception that it's controlled by Jubilee or by NASA?
Well, one thing for the 21 years in practice, and colleagues who know me know very well, I speak my mind, I'm forthright, and I do not encourage any external interference. For any politician out there who thinks that they'll come and manipulate the council, can you deport those thoughts? We will not have that in this society.
Okay.
We will adhere to Section 4, the Constitution, the rule of law. That's a guarantee.
Okay. You can come in as well. Go ahead, Harriet.
Just to add on that, one thing I must tell you is that I'm a champion of governance. I train on governance, and corporate governance is one of those things I hold so dear in my heart. So you will not see that. You will not see that at all. And even the many boards I have sat in will tell you. I'm one of those people.
Governance, rule of law.
That is me. When you see governance, you have seen Harriet Chigai.
Okay.
So I can assure you, this council, we have a lot to deliver. We have a lot of promises that we have made to our members. And I think that is the key. That is what we are coming in office to do.
Okay.
So that
Good.
is it.
For Kenyans who may have just tuned in, I want to introduce the two people with me as President and Vice President designate. as we await the final declaration by IEBC. Harriet Chigai, LSK Vice President, provisional results put her ahead. Her competitor has conceded, and congratulations on that. And of course, Waiyaki Gichuhi, President-designate, of course, his competitor has not yet conceded, or I haven't received that information by the time I came to studio, but nevertheless, the results put him ahead after that election that took place yesterday in 28 polling centers, or stations rather, around the country, or at least 38 different locations where registered lawyers or those who are eligible to vote went and took part in that democratic process. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And nevertheless, the public will hold you to those words, the legal fraternity. Many of them knew you were coming here and they've been watching and listening, but wish you all the best as you chart out into this new space.
Thank you.